Hello friends and welcome back to this video. This video is regarding how you can install XDebug with or without Docker environment and how you can use different modes of XDebug. So for this video, you should have basic understanding of what is Docker, PHP and XDebug. These are 6 agendas that I'm going to cover in this video. For first point, how to install XDebug with or without Docker environment. So in this video, I'm going to cover how you can install XDebug with Docker environment. But if you want to see how you can install without Docker environment, then you can visit my previous video. You can have all the information related to that. Also, if you want to go into deep about how you can set up the Docker environment to run the project, then also you can see this video. This will cover all the aspects of Docker environment and how you can run a project using containers. So now coming back to point number 1, and in that we are going to see how we can install XDebug with Docker environment. So I already have created Docker Compose file and we have MySQL service, but we are not going deep in that. We are more concentrating our focus on PHP. So the Docker container name is PHP Docker PHP 83 and we are building this using Docker file, and this is the Docker file. Let me just quickly walk you through this. So we are building it from PHP 8.3 Apache. This image is already available on Docker Hub. So we are building on top of it and we are running to install Node.js 18.x, and this line will install the Node.js into the 8.3 Apache image. We are also installing some other dependencies. This line will install Composer 2.3. This will install GD library. This will install INTL library. This will install PDO MySQL, MySQLi and all other stuff. This is what we should be focusing on. This will install XDebug and also enable Docker PHP extension XDebug. After enabling the extension, this line, this code will make changes to the php.ini as per our needs. For example, we are enabling all the modes available. We have like 6 different modes available with XDebug. How we want to start the XDebug, as of now we are keeping it as a trigger, and how we can trigger it I will just show you in a bit. Client host, since we are running this in Docker, it always has to be host.docker.internal. We are running the client XDebug client on port 9003. IDE key, since we are using VS Code, I have set it as a VS Code. These are other XDebug options, though I will walk you through down the video, but let me just give you a glimpse of it. So when we have the profiler mode enable, this profile mode enable, what should be the profile output name? So it should always start with cachegrind.out, and these are different options that we want to append to the file name where we want to store those files. So we have set it to logs, where we want to set the XDebug logs. So that would be this on this location on this line, and also log level. We have different log levels of the XDebug. I have set it to 3. you can refer to the documentation about different log levels, and you can set the log level as per your need. Now I also want to highlight this. This location refers to the Docker's location, not the location of your actual file system. So if I check here in src, so var www and html, this refers to the src folder, and then whatever the folder that you want to use for storing the logs, you can just append to that. It is a bit confusing since we are running this through Docker. This path refers to Docker because we have mapped it here in Docker Compose. The src folder, it will be considered as var www html when we are running the project through Docker, and that's why we have to set the paths like this. All this information you can find on my Git repository. I have already provided this information, this URL in description, and I also had passed readme file. So if you want to run this repository, you just need to check out, and then first you have to create the configuration folder, sorry, MySQL folder, because I have excluded that. I have made it in gitignore because this folder is only used for storing MySQL database. When you are running that, when you are running the project and when you are using actual MySQL service, then only this folder comes into the play, and it does not require to be pushed to Git. That's why I have this as a gitignore. And I think this is it. On the second step, you just need to run this command, and that will download the Docker containers and also run the Docker file on top of the container and have XDebug installed with all other dependencies defined on this file. So that is point number 1 for us, how we can install XDebug with and without environment. I already have that repository available, so I'm not running that command again. But now let's come back to the second point, how to ensure the XDebug is installed and configured properly. So there are different ways. You can either go for php info. Let me disable XDebug info for now. Let's go for php info and let's load this. So here just check for XDebug and you will find like this. If you find this with version, that means XDebug is installed through Docker container. But I like the second approach. If it is installed, then it also gives you xdebug_info function. This does not comes with default PHP configuration, but if XDebug is already installed, then only you will have this function available. Let me close this or command this right now, and that okay. So if you have installed XDebug, then it will give you all the information like development helpers enabled. Since we have enabled everything, all 6 features are enabled. And this is what I just wanted to highlight you. Here you will get, if the XDebug is not configured properly through VS Code, then you will have this information. You will have this diagnosed log, and that will give you some idea about how to debug so that it works for you. Let me disable. So this also is one of the point, but okay, let me first show you. So though you have enabled all the modes, there is a way you can restrict or you can control which mode you want to work with. There is an extension available, XDebug helper. I already have installed it. So once you install it, you will have this available, and then you can choose any of this mode. As of now, I am choosing debug mode and going to the I'm using debug mode here. This website is not in our control, but this one is. And let's see what exactly the errors are. So if you want to connect and check through VS Code, you can click on this option, run and debug, and here I already have created the file, but you can see it here. Let me disable this line and let me run this again, and let's run this website. And now you see all the diagnostic logs, all the errors and warnings are removed from diagnostic logs. I had added this just to give you a demonstration. Also, you can find the same log under logs folder, XDebug log. Here you will get the same logs, but if you want to, you can also get it through xdebug_info function. Let me get rid of these logs, and now let's see how it runs in the debug mode. So we already have selected the debug mode. This will set the cookie, and that way it will also instruct the VS Code that we want to run the function XDebug in the debug mode. I already have this available. Let me uncomment this so that we call this function recursively in the recurring manner, not the recursive manner, in the recurring manner. And I have added the breakpoint here, and now I am just refreshing the website. You see the focus has been shifted here. Ever since I refreshed the browser, it had brought me on the VS Code on the breakdown point. You can add as many breakdown point as you want, like this. And here you will get all the information regarding cookies, servers. Here you can see XDebug session is XDebug Eclipse, and that instruct the VS Code that we want to run the XDebug in the debug mode. And let's end this. I think we have to do it for 5 times. And that completes the execution, and here you can see all the function calls. So this is how we can use debug mode using XDebug. That is for point number 3. What are the different modes? You can see those modes in Docker file here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. These 6 are the different modes of XDebug, and 2 are most popular one, debug and profile. Debug is mostly used for debugging the application. You can add the breaking point and you can see actual execution of the code, how it is behaving, and it at each point what are the values of the variables, and that will give you idea about how the execution is going on. So that is of what the debug mode is. Now that is point number 4, what is debug mode and how it is useful. Now on point number 5, how what is the profiler mode and how you can generate and save the profiler data. So for that you have to go back to the browser and set the XDebug extension to profile mode, and go back to the VS Code. Here you can just disable this, stop this debug tool. For profiler you don't need to run XDebug, but before that let's see what different settings that we have done. First we have enabled the mode. That's why you see that profiler is enabled but profiler is not active. Here as it says, profiler is not active. This one is a specific setting for the profiler. What should be the output name of the profiler's file? I would recommend to keep the cache grind.out as a prefix of the site, prefix of the file, and these are the different options. You can go for the documentation. Here you can have different options specified and you can use any of them. For now I have used %h, that stands for HTTP host, %r, that stands for request URI, %t for timestamp, and %s for script name. So this is how my profiler output file will look like. Where this file will be stored? In the logs folder. Inside src you should also create the logs folder, and there you will profiler files will be stored. And also if you want to enable the logging for XDebug itself, then you should also create xdebug.log file inside the same folder, and then XDebug will log all the errors, warnings and notices related to XDebug here only. So this is how we have set up profiler for different options to have the profiler data. Enough of the discussion. And now let me just first remove the profiler data. Delete tracing as well, that is also not necessary. And now if I run the site, it should create profile file for this website. Okay, execution is complete and it has created this file. Now if you click on this file, this is how, this is not a human readable file, but I have added VS Code extension. If you are using a VS Code, then you should go for PHP. Actually, let me just go down. It was PHP profiler. You should install this extension. I will provide you a link of this in description, or you can go for Kcache grind tool if you are using Linux, or you can use Qcache grind tool if you are using Windows or Mac OS, or if want, you can also go for web-based front-end web grind that will transform the profiler data into human readable form. I think VS Code is more popular, so mostly you should be using PHP profiler. This is a good extension. Now, what does it say? It gives us that this function has been called 5 times. This function has been called 5 times, so is slip function, and the XDebug info is only called once. Let's cross check. So XDebug is always going to call 1 time, but because we have used recurring function 5 times, and within that we have date function, so it is accurately showing us the function calls. And not only that, it also gives us the information regarding time itself took for each function. And in function details, you can see like detailed function calls with all the information and how much time it took by each function. So for demonstration, I have added sleep with 5 seconds. That's why it says that, sleep function had taken 99.98% of execution time compared to other 2 functions, and rightly so. This is a very simple demonstration, but if you use this profiler data, you will get to see in a complex or real-time application, you will get to see and identify which function calls are taking more time, and then you can optimize those functions to minimize the waiting time and improve the execution time. So this is how the profiler is used to help developer what functions are taking more time and which functions need tweaking to improve the execution time. So that is point number 6. What are the different tools available to read the profiler data? I have shown you quite a few. Like you can, if you are using VS Code IDE for your project, then you can just install PHP profiler extension. But if not, depending upon your OS, you can choose Kcache or Qcache grind. And if you want to go for web-based front end, then you can just go for web grind. So this is 2 popular XDebug modes that can help developer to debug and profile what functions are taking more time, and how you can and that will help you improve function calls to take it less time to improve the execution time of your script. I hope you have liked this video. Please share and subscribe. Also give me comments about if you have any questions or if I have missed anything in this video, and I will try to come up with a new video with all those suggestions. See you in the next video.